Unless it's snowing. Not home.
Let your dog out?
No, the dog's still in the kennel.
Oh, were you out of town this weekend?
Yeah, I want to see if she can go out second.
So you're reading?
Get my girl.
Is Val not gonna be here?
Yeah, she's in take care of dad. Yeah, that's Oliver's. Talk to Oliver. Fixes. Does that take up a wall?
6:58.
Is that clock correct, Mary Beth?
That clock is not correct, 6:58.
All right. Give me the word. Got a lot of snow out there? About 8 inches?
It's coming. It's coming.
Is it really?
It's a warning.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's covering the ground right now.
Well,
It's
it's
coming.
23 tonight, and this roads are wet. There's gonna be ice. You know there's gonna be ice.
Well, they put
I
those.
got the over and under.
The brine, I seen it down when we were in the funeral procession. I seen the brine, yeah.
Really?
You know what time? Yeah.
I swear, it just flipped right up.
Yeah. You want some of that?
I say over.
I say 10 seconds or under.
I say over.
Henry not coming?
Now you're trying to influence it.
He was gonna say the other stuff.
Right?
Let me know if he walks in. Val's not gonna be.
Yes, you will. We good to go? Nope. All rise. The Monday, November 11th, 2013 South Bend Common Council is now in session. The invocation by Vice President Oliver Davis.
Before I pray, are there any veterans in the audience tonight? If you are, could you please raise your hand? Are there any veterans? No veterans? Alrighty, we'll just still pray a prayer for them. So Lord, we thank you for our council. We thank you for all the veterans in our midst and those in our city. Bless our council in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Beer. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Assistant, is it Assistant Deputy Clerk? Proper?
Roll call?
Ms. Calhoun,
Yeah.
there you go.
Mr. Scott.
Present.
Mr. Henry Davis, Jr. Mr. Fred Furlick.
Here.
Mr. Varner.
Present.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Present.
Councilwoman White.
Present.
Mr. Furlick.
Here.
Mr. Dieter.
Present, ma'am.
7 present.
Thank you. Special business, again, I'd like to thank all the veterans who may be here later tonight. I'd like to let everybody know that there are only two council meetings left this year.
Yay.
One will be on November 25th, and the second will be on December 9th. Representing the city administration tonight will be Controller Mark Neal and council member Zah. Our attorney now has a
Did
statement
we
to
miss
make.
the subcommittee on minutes?
For the record, at a special meeting on October 30th of this year, Substitute Bill 5313 dealt with the non-bargaining salary for the 2014 calendar year. It was passed by the council and signed by Mayor Pete and became ordinance number 10266-13. In the record that was read by the city clerk, the position of forester was read to get a 7% raise, while the mayor proposed that that position receive a 3.56% raise. By state law, we cannot overrule the mayor and go higher. So therefore, the ordinance that was passed does reflect the maximum of the 3.56 for that position.
All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much. We do not have any reports of city officers, therefore,
I didn't do
we
this.
have, go ahead.
Just for the clerk's note, Mr. Henry Davis is here.
Subcommittee on minutes.
Hey, John.
Hey,
How you doing?
good.
All right.
Also, we skipped over the report of subcommittee on minutes.
That's what I thought. Therefore, may I have the report from the subcommittee on minutes?
So moved.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the October 28, 2013 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved. Signed, Derek Dieter, David Varner.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition to that? Thank you. Now, may I have a motion to resolve in committee of the
So
whole?
moved.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposition to that?
I'm going to remain in my seat. At this time, the committee of the whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where bills are given a second reading and public hearing. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Janice Calhoun to give second reading to Bill 48-13, please.
Public hearing on a bill amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 1906 Franklin Street, South Bend, Indiana 46614, Councilmanic District 6 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Dr. Bullock?
The 4813 comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a report from your plan?
Good evening, Angela Smith, area plan. The office is on the 11th floor of this building. Petitioner is seeking to rezone from LI Light Industrial to SF2 single family for a single family residential property. The property is located in a transitional area in between several light industrial and heavy industrial areas, as well as single family you will see to the west and moving on westward. This is a wider image to see the perspective as it relates to the surrounding area. This is a two-story building that's been vacant for approximately 20 years that he will be remodeling to suit for his home. Here you can see the single-family residential to the west and surrounded by the light industrial, kind of that transitional area. It comes to you from the Area Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council members, do you have any questions? Thank you for your report. At this time, we're asking petitioner to come before the council, state your name and address, and give us a brief summary of Bill 48-13.
Good evening. My name is Rami Sadat. I live in 19543 Darden Road. 46637 is the zip code. And we intend on fixing up the property and living in it. That's what we want to do.
Council members, do you have any questions of the petitioner?
Just a comment. I'd like to say you've made a great choice.
Thank you.
On behalf of the 6th District.
Cheers. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Council member Dieter?
There's a very large house across the street, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then a hill just to the south of that?
That's correct, yes.
Just a point of interest, that used to be the Creative Musicians Club. Frank Sinatra Jr. played there in 1977.
Nice.
Thank you.
In the 6th District.
In the 60s.
Council members, do you have any questions of the petitioner? If not, we'll move to the public hearing portion. Thank you so much for your comments. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in support of Bill 48-13? Seeing no one, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition? Again, I see no one. The public hearing portion is closed.
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, may I hear your vote?
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Bill 48-13 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Ms. Calhoun, would you please give second reading to Bill 59-13?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 1, Basic Provisions, to add a new subsection relative to the rezoning of existing structures. Article 2, Residential Districts, to revise state swimming pool code references. Article 4, Industrial Districts, to revise screening requirements. Article 5, Planned Unit Development, to revise an incorrect citation. Article 7, General Regulations, to revise certain landscaping requirements between residential and industrial uses, and to revise incorrect citations.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Zoning and Annexation Committee met today and sent the full council favorable recommendation.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have a report from Area Plan.
Good evening, Angela Smith, area plan, offices on the 11th floor of this building. Before you are several amendments to the zoning ordinance to address issues that have come up along the way. The few that are additions are exempting existing structures when they're rezoned For instance, if the past one had been rezoned and needed a setback variance, we would not make petitioner seek that setback variance. However, they are required to comply with all of the landscaping regulations and the other regulations from the zoning ordinance, simply the structure that is going to be grandfathered into the new provision. We are also modifying some buffering between industrial properties to not require industrial screening between industrial properties. Similarly, the residential buffer yards will remain untouched. And the sign ordinance will be modified to allow one menu drive-through directional per drive-through lane as opposed to one per property. The other two items are simply corrections of citations or updating for the Indiana code. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. This is council's favorable recommendation from area plan.
Thank you. Council members? Councilmember Henry Davis?
Yeah, thank you. Is this including all rezonings or zoning changes that happen within the city of South Bend or St. Joseph County?
It will include all rezoning petitions within the city of South Bend. St. Joseph County recently passed the same ordinance, and it only applies to existing structures.
Existing structures meaning their operation, their ongoing operation, or
If there's an existing building on the property,
regardless if somebody's in it or not?
correct.
Okay. So my question at this point is that we had a meeting this past week about some things on Western Avenue, giving some secondhand car lots, different things. So is that per the new state code, or I'm just trying to get a handle on what's going on?
This would only apply to the building. So for instance, if there was a building along Western Avenue and the property was rezoned for whatever use, whether it had been vacant for a long time or not,
Sure.
and it sets too close to one of the property lines, this would exempt them from asking a variance for that. The theory behind it is that we're not, if the property is rezoned, we're not going to make them tear down the building and move it 5 feet to comply with the current zoning.
Right.
Petitioners have been requesting the variances, and then the variances are granted. It's an extra step in the process that is just cumbersome to the petitioner. It does not eliminate them from the screening. So if there is a residential buffer yard that they need to install, if there is additional landscaping that they need to comply with, if there's additional parking, they're still required to comply with all those regulations or seek a variance through the variance process.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Well, now, at this point, I'll move to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in support of Bill 59-13? Anyone present? Seeing no one, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to Bill 59-13? Again, I see no one. Council members?
I'm in favor of recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, I hear your vote.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Bill 59-13 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Ms. Talboon, will you give second reading to Bill 49-13?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 16, Articles 2 and 4 of the South Bend Municipal Code to prohibit plastic bags for yard waste.
Need to hear the substitute version.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, might hear your vote, please.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. I will now ask our city council attorney to read into record the amendments.
Substitute Bill 4913 in Section 1, amending Section 16-8. The last sentence that is recommended as being new to read as follows. Any yard waste set out for collection in any manner other than a container leased from the city shall be limited to a maximum of 35 pounds per container. On page 2, Section 2, to add a new sentence to subparagraph G, which would read as follows. If a leased yard waste container is lost or stolen, the city shall replace such container at its cost once per calendar year.
Thank you. At this time, is there a committee report?
We would need a motion to accept those amendments
So
to the
moved.
substitute bill.
Second.
Is it moved and seconded? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Now we'll entertain a committee report.
Yes, Madam Chair. The Public Works and Property Vacation Committee met this afternoon, and we bring Bill 4913 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
At this time, is there a petitioner?
Pretty picture.
Well,
Good afternoon, I apologize.
Do I have the proper one? The stuff was on my desk,
It's the wrong Notre
No,
Dame there.
we
Just
just
go
amended
ahead.
it to committee.
so it's now new
So-
again.
Thank you. Eric Horvath, Public Works Director, 13th floor of this building. This ordinance comes as a result of the previous code allowed for plastic bags to be picked up and people could put out yard waste in plastic bags. And we were taking them out to our organic resources facility where we were trying to compost the yard waste out there. Unfortunately, we ended up getting a number of, over the last 15 years, over 100,000 cubic yards of plastic contaminated yard waste that we've been trying to screen unsuccessfully. And so we've got a major issue out there with this pile that's the size of a football field, 19 feet high, of plastic contaminated yard waste that we need to do something with. A couple months ago, we received from IDEM a notice of violation letter saying, okay, you guys have to step up your efforts and make something happen out there. And so the first step in that phase is changing the municipal code to ban plastic bags and so that they will no longer be allowed to have yard waste put in them. So in its place, what we'll do is allow for them to put yard waste in paper bags, biodegradable bags, or residential supplied containers up to a maximum weight limit of 35 pounds per bag or container. We have also added at the council's recommendation a program that would allow the residents to rent bins similar to their trash bins. They're 95-gallon yard waste bins. They're brown, specifically saying yard waste only on them, at the cost of $2 a month for the months of April through November, for a total of $16 a year, the cost of which is less than what it costs them to buy a couple plastic bags each week. So we've also in this ordinance changed the effective date to reflect a January 1st, 2014 effective date, and also, of course, the language put in there to replace bins that are either lost or stolen up to one per calendar year. We added as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Do you have any questions?
Council members, any questions? Councilmember Furley? Councilmember Davis? Councilmember Varner? Councilmember Deeter?
Yes, I do. In regards to the 35-pound, how will that be determined? Because I could see an instance where somebody may put something out, leaves over a weekend, it rains, and the bag becomes a little heavier. How will that?
Sure. Right now, we currently have that same requirement. That's kind of an internal requirement, has been there for a long time. It's currently on our website. It's just not in the ordinance and not in the code. So we're adding it to that. I think that the idea of the 35 pounds is that risk and safety people were looking at that as a safe measure for repetitive tasks. So if we've got an instance where we've got one that's over the weight limit, we're not going to bring a scale around with us. I imagine the guys are going to just try to empty it. If it's really bad, there may be some way that they can empty one of the lighter ones and then dump some leaves in another one or something. But it's not our intent not to pick it up. However, having said that, if we get a container full of bricks, we're obviously not going to pick it up. But
I just want to avoid something that if there's a confrontation and somebody says, well, it's not how, you're not going to argue, just say thank you.
Yep, great question. No, we don't, no intention there.
All right.
Councilman Furley, any questions? Councilman Henry Davis?
Sure. You listed several, remedies for this. One was biodegradable bags and also paper bags. Is there a listing or a showing of where people can purchase those items at?
Yeah, and I apologize, I didn't bring it this time. One of the previous presentations, I brought a list and also gave the current prices. They ranged around $2 for 5 paper bags. The standard place you could get them were, Walmart, Menards, Lowe's, Home Depot. There were a couple of the local, I think Ace Hardware may have had them too.
And that's fine. The only reason why I asked that question is that could we communicate that to a larger audience? I don't know if you guys are looking to put that inside of the water bill, where the mayor's notes usually go into, or in some way in our website, so folks would know that it's just not a knee-jerk reaction saying, well, they're trying to charge us more to do, what we need to do, but in such a way that people will know, okay, well, it's not that bad, and this is also where I can purchase these items at, so I can replace my plastic bags with paper bags and biodegradable bags.
Sure.
It's just a way of just informing the community.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. We need to, we've had a lot of press on this. The issue is going to be that it's going to take place, it's going to be effective January 1, so people are going to forget about it when next leaf season comes around or yard waste season. So we'll definitely need to be putting something out there in our water bill. We'll have to have, other means that we try to promulgate it, including our website and other means.
Social media, wherever it is, and make sure that people understand that these things are available at these places.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had also mentioned earlier, we will make stickers as well. So if we do get people putting them out in plastic bags next year, we'll sticker it so they understand what the program is. It'll tell them right on there what their options are.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Scott?
No, ma'am.
Thank you so much. We'll
Thank
now
you.
move to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in support of Bill 49-13? Seeing no one, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to this bill? Again, I see no one. The public hearing portion is now
Move for
closed.
favor recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, may I hear your vote?
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Bill 49-13 will be sent to the full council. Ms. Talboon, will you give second reading to Bill 63-13?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 17 of the South Bend Municipal Code to reinstate Article 2, Section 17-27.1, hauled septic waste.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Madam Chair. The Utilities Committee had a meeting this afternoon, and we bring Bill 63-13 to the full council with a favorable report.
Thank you so much. Is the petitioner present?
Thank you, Council. Eric Horvath, Public Works Director, 13th floor of this building. This is to reinstate Article 2, Section 17-27.1 of the Municipal Code, which is on hauled septic waste, to allow for residential septic waste to be hauled and delivered to our wastewater treatment plant at a charge to be incurred of 6 cents per gallon of waste. This was in the previous ordinance. When they redid the ordinance in 2011, it was inadvertently left out, and so we were trying to reinstate this component of the code.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions of the petitioner? Councilmember Henry Davis?
Thank you. Eric, we were talking earlier about this, and I wasn't able to really define a question the way I needed to. Consistently over the last few years, I've been voting against the enterprise fund bill for a number of reasons when we talk about the budget. And there's a reason why, because as we're paying attention to this particular bill itself, this will obviously bring in some sort of revenue to the city based on services provided by the city to whomever, whether they're coming from Michigan or Elkhart, what have you. So my question is in a way of, looking at what we're up against with the CSO project, potential raises in, water, etc. How are we really addressing or being accountable to the number of dollars that are coming in through these enterprise funds, especially this one itself, and making sure that those dollars are being used to support and also, buffer possible rate increases when it comes to water or sewer rates? Because obviously this will pour into, an enterprise fund, and it may not necessarily be used for supporting those things that I'm talking about, as far as rate increases or perhaps, taxes and what have
So my understanding is that they've continued to allow for the hauling and collection. They've continued to charge. And I apologize because I didn't get a chance to look up the revenue numbers, but it is a very small amount of revenue. If you consider a typical tank being 1,000 to 1,200 gallons that they would pump, that would generate roughly $60 to $70 in revenue. So it's a really minor component because we don't have that many haulers dumping at our plant each day. So there's just a handful that would do it during any given day. So I don't know if that helps answer. It's not going to be it'll never be a major revenue generator for us, just because the numbers are such that they don't have a lot of people that are dumping there any given day.
Well, no, I didn't think that it would be, like a $6 million revenue generator. By no means, not at 6 cents a gallon or however we're measuring that. So, no, it's just a way of making sure that those dollars that are coming into those enterprise funds are going to be able to use or be used to support what we're going through now with these possible rate increases at these high percentages.
Absolutely.
And it's for a better conversation later on that allows the council to have better oversight over the dollars that are happening. Obviously, this is a small example of a number of things that happen with the enterprise funds, but it shows the amount of dollars that actually will be going in there and the different streams that support those enterprise funds. That's my issue, and so I'm not necessarily against what you're obviously advocating for or asking for us, but I think that we probably need to really dig in a little bit deeper on these enterprise funds to make sure that the dollars that are there are being able to be used to help, again, mitigate or support some of the things that we'll be talking about later on. I think even in the next bill.
Yeah. Yeah, and it Mark, you probably answer this, but I believe it goes into the operating fund. So the revenues go into 641, which is what supports the operations and maintenance of the wastewater treatment facility, all of the workers, all of the electric costs, all of the operations of our wastewater treatment plant. So, yeah, and I didn't look it up. There's a specific line, but I didn't look up how much revenue it was. But yeah, it does go into Fund 641. And so ultimately, it does help support, offset in some small way, increases to your non-septic users because you're treating that waste.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. We'll move to the
Welcome.
public hearing portion. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in support of Bill 63-13? Seeing no one, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition? Again, I see no one. The public hearing portion is now
Move in
closed.
favor recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, may I hear your vote?
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Bill 63-13 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Ms. Tambourine, will you give second reading to Bill 64-13?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending various sections of Chapter 17, Article 2 of the South Bend Municipal Code to adjust sewer rates and charges incrementally through 2017.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Madam Chair, this bill was heard today in the Utilities Committee. However, we did not take a formal action on this bill because of the fact that we were still going to allow for a public hearing at this time. And just to note that in doing our research, I would just like, if permission, to just have a quick summary regarding this bill from our city attorney regarding what she shared with us today. That's correct, council attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you for the correction, President.
Bill 6413 sets forth a proposed sewer rate increase for the next 4 years. It was properly published that this evening would be the public hearing on this. However, the council does have the opportunity to continue the public hearing in the event that they would like to hold more committee meetings through the Utilities Committee and work with the administration in gathering more with regard to past history of of the sewer rates. The council is charged by state law under Title 36 to establish what are determined to be just and equitable fees for providing services in this area. And there's a listing of 10 different factors that the council may use in determining those fees. Councilmember White requested at a recent utilities meeting a brief history, and we went back to 1989 when there was a significant increase, the first time in 14 years that the city of South Bend had raised the wastewater rates. Thereafter, in 2003, there was a 24% rate increase, and also in 2004. In 2005, there was a 5% rate increase. In 2006, a 29% rate increase. In 2007, 15%. 2008, 11%. And each year thereafter, a 9% rate increase. And again, like we have done in the past, Mr. Scump will be presenting detailed information as far as determining what is just and reasonable in this area.
I would also ask that our council attorney will just give a very brief overview when we move to the public hearing portion.
At the time of the public hearing, anyone has the right to speak before the council. We ask that you give your name and address. You have the right to speak for 5 minutes. We always ask that anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the bill speak first. After that, anyone who wishes to remonstrate against the proposal also has the right to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. If there are any questions raised in either one of those portions, the formal presentation given by the city administration then has a rebuttal period of 5 minutes.
And
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, is that this time or afterwards that we will then talk about continuation?
When we get back
After.
into the council portion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We'll now ask the presenter to come before the council.
Thank you. Eric Horvath, Public Works Director, 13th floor of this building. Also with me today, I have Becky Schaefer. She's an engineer with Greeley & Hansen, who will be joining me momentarily, as well as John Scomp, who is a utility rate analyst with Crowe Horvath. I want to start by giving a little bit of background. I apologize for some of you who've heard this before, but throughout its history, the river has just been a tremendous asset for the city of South Bend. Early on, as you know, it supported industrial base, but for years it's also been a mechanism through which we can get our sewers out of the city and into the river where it's diluted and taken away. And you know, this is something that's been going on in civilizations for 5,000 years. They figured out there was a need to have sewers and that they provided a good health benefit for civilizations in our. Well, and, you know, if you look at worldwide, we're still not there. We've got 1 in 4 people who don't have access to sanitary toilets, and 4,000 deaths a year for waterborne illnesses, or a day, 4,000 deaths a day from waterborne illnesses throughout the world. So we're very fortunate that we're not in those developing countries, and we're not in that same situation. However, we've got our own issues here that we've got to deal with, and the late 1800s, early 1900s, we took our sanitary sewer and our storm sewers and took them directly to the river. And in the 1950s, we decided that we needed to build a wastewater treatment plant to treat some of that waste. So we built these interceptor sewers that would intercept that flow and take it to the wastewater treatment plant to be treated. But they didn't build the treatment plant large enough to handle all of the flow, nor did they build the interceptor sewers large enough to handle it. And so there's still a number of occasions where we're overflowing into the river, or even worse, people's basements. So here's our motivation. We've got somewhere around 60 to 70 times during a typical year that we've got these overflow events, and they could be at as many as 36 different locations throughout the city. We've got 36 combined sewer overflows throughout the city of South Bend, and somewhere between 500 million to we've had as much as 2 billion gallons a year of overflow from these combined sewage overflows during a year. Here's the other part of our motivation is keeping the sewage out of basements. We still have a number of areas where basements are backing up. We recently looked at 3 distinct areas in town just to make sure we were still having issues with basement backups, and of the 376 homes surveyed, we had response for 225 that they were still having backups in their basement. And some of those were multiple times per year. So here's a diagram kind of showing roughly what a combined sewer looks like and operates like. On the left, you can see under dry weather conditions, the downspouts from buildings, the storm lines from roads, all these go into this combined pipe, as does the sanitary sewage from our homes and from our businesses. Under dry conditions, our pipes are big enough that they can handle all that flow. And so it just continues to flow all the way to the treatment plant, and we treat it there before discharging it back to the river. However, when we have wet weather and it rains, our combined sewer starts to raise, and at some point we've got bottlenecks in our system that they start failing. And so we get surcharging in those lines, and that's when it backs up and either floods basements or overflows to the river. So our problem is we've got, as I mentioned, 36 of these along the river. Our city limits is approximately 40 square miles, and our combined system is approximately 20 square miles. So, you know, one solution would be separating the entire city, doing stormwater separate from sanitary and creating a bunch of storm sewers. Unfortunately, the cost of that program is well in excess of what our long-term control plan is. So now what I'd like to do is maybe just have Becky talk a little bit about long-term control plan and some reopeners. Yes?
How much rain does it have to be, or how much snow does it have to be before it starts surcharging or backing up?
It totally depends. I know it's the answer you're looking for, but the issue is that it's more about intensity and duration than it is about overall amount. So
the faster it comes down, you mean?
The faster it comes down, the quicker we're going to have an overflow. So we can have a sprinkle over a couple days and not have an overflow. But when we get a good rain, well, you can see 60 to 70 days a year we have overflows.
Yeah.
So imagine, most rainfalls we're getting overflows right now.
And the same thing after when the snow melts.
Yeah, if you have a big snow melt, you could easily have an overflow as well. Yeah. Becky?
Becky Schaefer with Greeley and Hanson out of Indianapolis. This slide shows the history of the development of South Bend's long-term control plan, and I won't get into the details, but it started back in 1989, and the city has invested a significant amount of money to study the system and bring together a bunch of information to develop this plan, and they've gotten input from several experts along the way, and the plan has been through several iterations throughout time over the last 20 years. This table compares South Bend's long-term control plan to other long-term control plans. So the costs are listed, and then the best way that we've found to compare plans is looking on how much combined sewer area you have in the city. The plan is basically very dependent on the volume of combined sewage in an area, and that's dependent on the land. So South Bend, the cost of the long-term control plan per acre, per combined acre in South Bend is mid-range. South Bend is in a federal consent decree, so a federal enforceable order. It was signed in December of 2001, and the elements of that consent...
11.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. 2011. You're right. The elements of the plan include eliminating dry weather overflows, reducing wet weather overflows from the 60 to 70 per year to 4 overflows per year, and disinfecting those overflows so that water quality standards are met at the state line. And there are a couple ways that we can reopen the consent decree and potentially adjust the plan. And this table outlines those 3 options of ways to potentially change the plan. The first option is a potential extension of the schedule of the plan. Currently, the plan has a 20-year implementation. There's an opportunity to potentially extend that schedule up to 5 years. And there are a couple constraints that have to happen before we can apply for an extension. So the extension can be applied for after May of 2017. A total of almost $99 million needs to be spent on the plan already, and financial conditions have to get worse. And there's an indicator called a residential indicator that looks at the cost of the plan in comparison to median household income. Currently, that residential indicator is at 2.41%, and it would have to increase by 0.2%. So financial conditions would have to get worse. The second way to potentially change the plan in the consent decree is changing the either size or configuration of the facilities in the plan. And there are 2 opportunities before December 31st of 2020 to do that. And before we would apply for a change in the technical plan, we would have to implement either green design or CSO net projects and prove that those projects reduce the flow to these new facilities so that we can reduce the size of these new facilities. We can reduce the size of the facilities up to a maximum of 40%. And in order to even apply for this, we have to plan the green infrastructure CSO net, design it, construct it, and then have a period where you monitor the performance of it and then put together a case to make the modification. Those 2 options are the options that are built into the consent decree. So you would have to work and get approval from the parties that signed the consent decree, which are the Department of Justice, EPA, and IDEM. This third last option is basically requesting that the entire consent decree be reopened, and this would have to go to a federal court or a judge to change the plan. So there aren't any restrictions, it's just going back and trying to open up the consent decree as a contract. Basically, what we know from experience is that you have to prove that your new plan is better for the environment than your old plan, and you have to show good faith in implementing the plan that you have. So those are the 3 ways.
Thank you. Well, Councilmember Davis.
Yes, Madam Chair, sorry. In your experience in the state of Indiana, any city who's under this consent decree or any likeness of any kind of decree, have they filed for any type of extension under any other categories? And what has been their success rate in being able to file for any of these things?
Sure. So for option number 1, extending the schedule, Elkhart has the same language in their consent decree, but they have not yet extended the schedule. They have not yet applied for that extension. South Bend is the only community that I'm aware of that has option 2, or the flexibility to change tank sizes or configurations. And a lot of people think that clause is very attractive in the consent decree. And for option number 3, just reopening the consent decree, yes, I'm aware of one other community that has done that. It took several years, but it was successful. And the reason it was successful is that they showed more environmental benefit faster in the new plan.
Is there, for this, the third issue, the city that was successful, are there any kind of best practices that they learned in that kind of a case that we could adapt in our case, that we could look at reopening it based on some of the lessons that they learned how to reopen theirs in order to meet the guidelines and get everything accomplished, which would in effect possibly reduce some of the costs?
Yeah, I think that the number 1 lesson learned was that EPA focuses on the environmental benefit, and just applying for a cost reduction is not going to be attractive to them. Of course, it's very attractive to the city, but
I understand that part.
Sure.
Is there any written documents that could be forwarded from that particular? You know what city that was?
Indianapolis.
Okay. Can there any information that we can have? That's some key things that we can look at that we need to add to ours.
I am not aware of something that summarizes that. I'm sure it could be pulled together.
Just do,
They have a website.
They
summarize it on their website, City of Indianapolis.
okay, I'll look at it.
I'm going to ask that we allow the presenter to conclude the presentation, then we'll come to the council for questions before we go to the public portion.
So this slide details the deadlines in the consent decree that are coming up in the next 5 years. The first deadline is to complete all of the Phase 1 projects, which include sewer separation, by December of 2017. And then starting one project by March of 2014, there is 5 tanks that are upstream of the East Race. Just one of them needs to be started by March of 2014. And then the one project that's at Leaper Park needs to be started by March of 2017.
Thanks, Becky. So, next steps. We've got this long-term control plan, this 20-year plan that has a number of different items in it, and we've gone over those items, but in a nutshell, we've got separations that we're going to be doing, upgrades to our treatment plant, large interceptor sewers to get more flow to the plant, and then storage facilities that will store, instead of overflowing the rivers, we'll store it, and then after it stops raining, will be pumped back to the sewers to get to the treatment plant. Right now, what we're focused on is Phase 1, which is the sewer separation projects, and this is in those areas where we've got combined areas and having backups and basements. And so we're going to focus on those areas, separating those out, and that will reduce the amount of flow in the system and reduce the amount of flow that we need to store, because it'll take some of the clean water sources off of the system entirely. Store and treat, I should say. And then in addition to that, we're going to be focusing at the wastewater treatment plant and upgrading that facility. The consent decree requires us to be able to treat 100 million gallons a day at peak. So during wet weather occasions, we need to be able to treat 100 million gallons a day, and we're at 77 peak now. And so the initial 2 phases will be eliminating sewage in basements from separating sewers in neighborhoods, and then secondly, upgrading our treatment plant. Then we'll go ahead. Concurrently, what we're going to do is, and Oliver, you asked an excellent question about, what kind of rain event, and there's so many factors that go into it, and part is intensity, duration, some of it's, where the rainfall occurs, the coverage area. Part of it's just antecedent conditions. If you've had a number of rainfalls before that and you've got wetter grounds, that you'll get more runoff. All those things go into it, and so you can guess that the model's not perfect. And as they built the model, they built a conservative model. And now we've got these 100+ sensors in our system that are giving us real-time data every 5 minutes on flows and depths. We've got a better idea of how our system operates. And so we can utilize that, including rain gauge sensors in different parts of the city. So we're going to utilize that information to recalibrate the model so we can get a more exact model than what we have currently. And so what we hope to see is that some of the numbers that we're looking at will go down significantly. So instead of needing to have a tank that holds 8 million gallons of combined flow, perhaps we can get a tank that holds 6 million gallons. We'll know after we do the recalibration of the model and can see where it lies. And then associated with that will be an update of the LTCP and look at then, are there ways that we can still get that same environmental benefit and get to the end result, but do it less expensively. That is going to be absolutely paramount to us, is to continue to try to value engineer every project and find ways to do this program that we can save costs and do it in a way that's sustainable, and we look at the economics component of it as well. So that will be our next steps. After that, then the Phase 2 projects, we plan on optimizing the system and using technology as best we can, and so those things on storage tanks, interceptors, the use of green solutions will come into play as we reevaluate and whether or not we can take some of the flows off with green solutions, and just relook at the entire plan at that time. So this number, so these come from the sheets that you got from John. John's going to talk about how the capital plan drives the rates, and ultimately, what I want to show is that we have to do optimization and we have to use technology to reduce the cost because we're fighting inflation. We have $432 million of capital improvements that have yet to be done in the next 16 years. But those were 2007 dollars. The engineering news record has construction inflation over the last 20 years of 3% annually, and so moving that forward in the years that we were going to do these projects could be as much as a $667 million project. So clearly we have our work cut out for us to try to reduce the cost of the overall long-term control plan. Another thing I wanted to share, and Dr. Furlick, we had talked a little bit about this, and by the way, Phoenix water and sewer rate is higher than ours right now. They're at 58.46 a user right now. But this is our utility rates in comparison, and what I do is I just put South Bend, Mishawaka Metro against the other states. So these are the top 10 states in rank. The rank on the left is their overall rank of all cost of living. And I've got them sorted here by utilities, so you can see that we're just under Mississippi in terms of being competitive for overall rates. Now, mind you, this is all utilities. It's not focused on water and sewer, but ACRA does report the cost of living index for all utilities, and so I want to share that as well, just to show that we currently are competitive, and we share the council's. You've made it clear that you want us to be in a position where we continue to be competitive with our rates. We've got this huge consent decree that we're going to have to do something about, and an issue in front of us, and we're going to do our best to do it in a way that we continue to be competitive on utility rates as best we can. So here's where we currently line up. These are 2013 rates, and for all cities and towns in the state of Indiana with populations over 25,000. You can see the left column is the ones that are above us, and then you get down on the right one there, a couple down, we're currently at 5538. So there's where we line up with the other cities and towns in the state of Indiana with populations over 25,000. Now, John, if you handle the rates
Before
up.
John comes up,
Yes.
Eric, I'm going to ask council, I think a couple of them have some questions, so we won't lose the questions, and then we come right back.
You
So
bet.
I'm going to go straight down the line. Councilman Furley, Councilman Davis.
Was there any discussion in 2007 when these numbers were created? Didn't that give some understanding since it was going to be a 20-year plan that inflation would already be included in it? So the fact that, that was already a given?
It wasn't included. That's all I can say. Yeah, it was not included, and everywhere you look at the plan, they usually have an asterisk that says 2007 dollars. So I'm not sure why that was, but it's been something that's bothering me because I don't want to get to a point where I've got a $10 million project that was 2007 dollars, and I go to build it in 2017. And everyone expects it to still be a $10 million project. Now, it may very well be, and it may be less than that based on, improvements that we see to the industry. But, if it's something like a large diameter sewer pipe, there haven't been significant improvements in the way we do that over the last number of years. And so I don't see those things changing drastically.
The only reason I say that, this is like every 4 years, and so in 2017, we'll come back, the council come back and say, well, those numbers were based on the 2013 numbers, and then they would need to continue to raise it, and this thing continually go out of whack without having any kind of ceiling or something else on it. And you say, well, what they did then, and so then they have to adjust it, and it keeps going up and up and up.
Go back to the slide. No, I get what you're saying. If you go back to the slide, go back right here. If you look, what I've got on the, and I apologize, it's really difficult to read here. But if you look at the 2007 dollars column, which is the top column, and then you see 2014, 2015, all the way to 2029, that matches up with the sheet that John gave you, and he's going to talk about that essentially sets our capital plan, which sets our rates. But those are all based on 2007 dollars. So when you add all those up, you get to 432 million. And so we're basing rates on that 432 million. So the reason I want to show you this is because if I move those forward from 07 to, let's say, 2019, that 38 million becomes 55 million with inflation, I think, if I'm reading that correctly. My eyes aren't that good. And so at the end of 2029, you have a plan that's 667 million.
Yeah.
So what we're funding is 431.
But then when John, I'm sure when he created those numbers back in 2007, that wasn't taken into consideration when he created the 431,000, and it was not. Why not?
It wasn't, and I can't answer why not. I'm not sure.
So
When he comes up for his
when he
presentation.
comes up for it, could
we're
he,
asking that question.
John, could you address that, please?
Councilmember Varner.
No, the only comment I wanted to make was about the slide before that, and, thanks, Jack. The one that had
Afterwards.
the rates, I'm sorry, yeah, the rates, subsequent rates.
Keep going one more.
Unfortunately, that's the one. I've been doing this long enough that what you're seeing here is a game of statistical regulatory leapfrog, where everybody puts the rates from 1 year and says, see, we're fine, and then 3 or 4 years down the road, when they haven't done anything, but we've moved up significantly in the, it's an interesting number. I tend to look at the rates as proposed down the road when you
Sure.
combine sewer and water rate. I maintain will be, for a normal household, somewhere in the neighborhood of $150 to $200 a month. And that's something that is going to leave us scratching our heads, and it won't be you and it won't be me, it'll be subsequent council members and subsequent employees who say, what are we going to do now to correct this? And the time to correct it is now, when we find ways to make this a less expensive program and a more efficient program. And if we simply follow this line out the way it is, we will be in a big, big problem, bigger than we can imagine today. So I can't emphasize how much I think it's important to get it under control now and get the rates workable so that the finished product, despite what this consent decree is, other people have worked successfully at it. Something that's not going to leave us uncompetitive and scratching our heads. That's not a legacy I want to leave.
Sure.
Councilman Deaton.
Appreciate the comment.
Councilman Deaton.
Yeah, I think the rates that Dr. Varner brought up earlier at the committee meeting just flow into this the way that he was saying right now, so that's the big concern I have of we're catching up, and at some point, when we're not here, maybe Oliver will still be here, but when we're not here, there'll be a big issue, and I don't want him to have the burden of that, so.
Councilmember Farley.
I agree with Dr. Varner. This is an unsustainable business model. So that's what we have to look into it as, is a business model. And that's what our council's going to do, and we're going to work with you, and we can come to a good conclusion on this.
Councilman Henry Davis.
Thank you. I have three actually. Why are we always constantly grouped in with like a Mishawaka South Bend thing when we're dealing with our numbers? I would think that will probably put us at a different average, whether up or down, if we're grouped in with another city.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the utilities one, those two metropolitan districts. This particular one is just showing the actual rates of each of those individual cities. But the South Bend Mishawaka one, because that's a nationwide index, they don't do each. If they do them, I didn't have access to that. They may very well have South Bend. You may be able to buy that report, but for the reports I was able to get online, this was the metropolitan district.
You know, just for the sake of like, you know, certain numbers or exact numbers, I'll be interested. I don't know how much it would change, but just to deal directly with South Bend. I'm sure, I don't know how much they would deal with South Bend in the Mishawaka model or conversation. Not that I, you know, am over there, but I would just be interested in seeing where we are directly at when we're dealing with our city. The other deal, we always appear to be higher than Fort Wayne. well, so Fort Wayne is significantly larger than, you know, us land mass and population. And I'm wondering, why are we always higher than Fort Wayne? I just noticed that on these slides.
I can't speak to specifics on that. I will say this, knowing Fort Wayne system, it's significantly different. They've got these huge CSO ponds that were built a number of years ago at their wastewater treatment plant, and so that holds a significant amount of flow right now, and it helps them balance that flow better. And we just don't have any room to do that. We don't have any place where we can build, you know, multiple million gallon storage facilities. So the South Bend Mishawaka metropolitan rate, I think is probably pretty close when you find, if you were to separate South Bend Mishawaka, because when you look at their water and sewer rates, they're really similar. We're at 55, they're at 59. So I'm guessing the rest of the utility rates, electric and gas, are probably pretty similar too. And then the other thing I wanted to point out was, so on the projections that we've done to support the 431 and the increases that we've projected every year for the next 16 years, we did put what the average residential user rate would be, and John can go over that, but at the end of the plan, at 2029, it's $95.43, I believe, is what the rate was. And then the last thing I'd like to say is, if you could jump to the chart, a couple down, right here. This will show us in relation to the other, those other population over 25,000, and I know it's really hard to see because I wanted to get them all on there. And what I did was I compared us, I took their 2013 rates and put them up there and didn't increase them at all, even though a number of these are going through increases right now. Some of them are significant, like we talked about Evansville with the 32%. But what I did was I just put in our 2014, if it went in at 9%, and 9%, 15, 9%, 16, 9%, 17, where we would be in relation to everyone if nobody else had a rate increase, just to show you kind of where we are for the next 4 years at least.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, sure, thank you, and thank you for that. One thing I just want to, you know, I've been concerned about this, and I've been talking about this for the last month or so, is how do we capture the biggest economic impact possible when we're dealing with large projects like this. I was concerned about another project, and I can't remember right now exactly what it was, or actually two of them, these past two council meetings, in dealing with how we deal with local hiring and labor. And so, as we're etching forward on this project and these projects, how likely is it for us to think or know that we will be able to be specific in our goal statement, making sure that that money is captured back here in some type of way? This is a huge project. This is monumental. You know, I agree with Dr. Barnum when he was saying earlier about, you know, $200 water bill. My seniors, lower income families, they can't even pay the water bill now. You know, and then for us to look at an increase is already scary enough. You know, and you're talking about no water at all. So how do we kind of reverse that, but not only reverse that, but make sure that those dollars are being recaptured here, so that if there is an impact, the impact actually happens here and not in southwestern Michigan or, you know, somewhere in Colorado or wherever somebody may come in to try to gain a job. I mean, because they go
speaking to the construction projects, once you get into construction, no, I think that's something we definitely need to look at. One of the issues that we're going to have to deal with is that you're allowed to do local preferences for equipment and supplies. You're not allowed to do local preference for public works bidded projects. You have to go with the lowest responsive bidder. But there may be other ways that we can figure out systems that we can drive so that we can have construction locally, and I think that that's something that would be important to us, that we would love to sit down and share ideas on how do we get there to make sure that we are keeping our dollars local as much as possible. I think that's very important.
Councilmember Scott.
Coming back to what Dr. Varner was saying,
of these cities here, I know there's some other river towns, besides Indianapolis, are there any other ones going through the CSO project listed here on the Indiana towns? And you don't have to answer that now if you want to get.
Yes, there are
And
significant
I
number
would
of-
kind of like to know what their budget is on their projects, Indianapolis, anybody else.
We're not gonna ask.
You know,
You don't have to get that now.
Okay, all right. If not, Becky could probably answer most of those, but we'll send you those,
Okay.
the cost of programs and stuff.
And
Yeah,
this
we can.
PowerPoint?
What's that?
Can we get this PowerPoint too?
Absolutely, yep.
I'm gonna ask Eric to complete your presentation.
Yes.
You know that you wanna go over the finances, and then we'll ask the council any questions on the presentation, and then we go to the public hearing.
Okay.
But also know that we will continue to have discussions on the issue that is before us in terms of this bill. So if you have questions, just make sure you keep those questions, and they will be addressed. This is just the first really public hearing that we're having thus far.
Great, thank you. John?
John Scomp with Crow Horwath. As far as the financial side of the presentation goes, the slide that Ms. Dillon has up here right now, throughout the remainder of the life of the plan we put together here through 2029, what we put together a plan, and it basically averaged out to about a $3.44 increase per year in the monthly sewer bill. What we looked at as we started through here was obviously over $400 million in capital improvements that were needed over that period of time. Trying to, first of all, one of the parameters being trying to have some level of construction each year so that the projects are actually manageable and they could be done in the most efficient manner, and not trying to do, $75 million of projects in one year and maybe only 3 or 4 or 5 million in another year. Trying to smooth that out so that a level amount of projects could be completed each year. Along with that, also trying to make as smooth as possible the monthly increase in the sewer bill year over year. We've done that a couple different ways, trying to look at the percentage increase, trying to keep that level. And what it comes out to is trying to make the impact on the residential customers as manageable as possible. We have also come back and looked at trying to, when we come to council, trying to plan for these increases. And last time it was over a 4-year period of time, 9% increase each year. Trying to do the same thing at this point in time with 9% increases over the next 4 years. That allows us to actually go out into the public and explain to your customers what they can expect to happen with their bills. Especially if you're looking at your not-for-profits, schools, hospitals, those other entities that have to put together budgets. They would like to know over a period of time what's going to happen with the rates, especially when they do know there's some economic pressure on the utility that's going to cause increases. For them not to see an increase for a couple of years and all of a sudden be shocked with a 30 or 40 or 50% increase the next year makes it hard for them to budget and plan on their end. So we tried to put together planned increases over a period of time so that they can be put in a reasonable manner. To talk to you about the pressure at this point in time, as Eric mentioned just a little bit earlier, these rate increases are driven by capital improvements. What we're trying to accomplish over the next 4 years is about $91 million worth of projects, and trying to mix the funding of those projects with both some bonds, some debt financing, and we're also paying for some out of our revenue stream. As was mentioned earlier about the sewage works, it is an enterprise fund. The cash coming into that fund, the revenues coming in, are spent for the things, for the financial responsibilities of that fund. We have debt service, we have operation and maintenance expenses, salaries and wages, benefits, insurance, power, chemicals, all the things that are needed with the expenses. We have those. We have taxes, and we have a capital improvement budget. So the money coming in, the revenues coming in, pay for those projects. We're currently bringing in about $32 million a year in revenue, and as you look at it, about $9.5 million of that 32 go to annual debt service. What we're looking to do is to increase that $32 million to 2017. By 2017, we'd like to have that increase to $40 million. About half of that increase, about a little over $4 million, would go to funding additional debt service towards completing that $91 million of projects. The other about $4 to $6 million a year would go to funding some improvements with cash. Yes, we have built in some inflationary pressure with the operation and maintenance expenses and those type of things. Those are minor really though in comparison to what we're really trying to do as far as bond fund some of the $91 million in projects over the next 4 years and then pay for some of those with capital improvements. Again, as you look at the sewage works, enterprise fund, it's a cash in, cash out. When we need to fund this level of projects, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, the source of revenue generally comes from the customers. And as you look at it, what we have planned for is on the residential bill, a increase each year in that bill so that we can fund the projects over that period of time. As I said before, its average is $3.44 over the remainder of the life of the plan. We have put that together and shown you in this detail here, trying to go out to the full 2029. As we came to you 4 years ago, we showed you, an additional 4 years on this plan that came to 2029. So we tried to show you a comparison of where we're at. If you were to go back and compare what we gave you 4 years ago to compare you with what we have now, we're pretty much staying on target with where we're at as far as the final rate. Yes, the final rate's a big number, but all we can do is try to stay on target with that and move forward and try to lessen the impact as much as possible. As you look at it, as Eric mentioned before, we're competitive now. A lot of other cities, many cities are out there dealing with these same things. As Eric showed you, our 2017 rate already compares on the high side but competitive with the other communities, and we know that they're going to be going up either currently or in the next few years as well as they're continuing to deal with these things. So as far as the financial side goes, we think we have a plan that's very feasible. We think it's put together in such a way that we can give the public some reasonable increases that they can anticipate, that they can plan for as they go forward. We really need to move this project forward. One of the things that was asked to us before is how about if we just, instead of doing 9%, we just did a 5% over the next few years. Well, if you knock it down to 5%, basically you're going to push $20-some million of projects over into 2018 instead of 2017. Double-digit rate increases needed at that point in time with projects being delayed. I think one of the things that was mentioned earlier that Becky mentioned was the reopener clause, is that if we spend $100 million, when we get to the $100 million number, one of those reopener clauses could be activated. If we start not funding the projects, then we're not going to get to at least that part of that one reopener clause. So as far as the financial part of it goes, you can see the increases in residential monthly rates there, and I think that's very feasible at this point in time. I'd like to open it up to any questions you may have. I know there was some question about the inflation factor built into the spreadsheet.
Councilmember Furlick?
Yeah.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes, thank you. I think that there needs to be a clear understanding of what we have done in past capital projects since the inception of this whole project, that the public needs to know. That since we have spent the first dollar, what kind of projects have been, how have all of those monies that we have set aside with 2005 and 2009 and all those kind of things, how have all those monies been spent that has helped to clear up our waters to do all that? Because I think that needs to be clearly explained, because the question I have is how do we know that, how do we meet our federal mandates in terms of when it comes to capital projects and using, like I said before, a Chevy model instead of a Lexus or a Cadillac model? I mean, what is the bare minimum of capital projects that we need to meet our federal mandate in terms of that? And how do we know that? So we can go back to our neighborhood group and say, we need to have only this amount. Because sometimes what we have been told in the past, that there may be some more additional or fluff or some wishful thinking or some higher rate of cost that has been built into these costs that have made them higher than what they really could be. And if we could still meet the federal requirements, the guidelines, the EPA, the Department of Justice, by having a different type of plan when it comes to capital projects that meets the requirement, yet saves us costs. Could you please help us to address those matters?
Let me address that very quickly. First of all, our responsibility at Crow we do not put together the project costs. We're not the engineers that actually go out and design the projects and bring in the project costs. We do take the project costs that are given to us by the engineers and try to go back and forth and put together reasonable spin-down timetables as far as if this is the cost of the project, how many years does it take to do that, how many dollars do you need each year. So when you see the spreadsheet I put together, we really developed that with the engineers saying, okay, if we're trying to do reasonable spin-down each year, how many dollars of each project would you need in each year to kind of plan this out?
So
Now-
basically, you're, when the administration came to you, with the former administration, under the leadership of Gary Gillott at that time, they brought this plan to you, and your goal was just to say, okay, based on this plan that you're presenting to us, here's the financial plan to accomplish it.
No,
That's really been
it
your
was a little bit
goal.
more of an iterative process in that, as far as when you go back and forth with the EPA and IDEM, you're also doing some financial capability analysis where you're saying, well, if that's the level of spending you do, here's the impact on the residential customer. They have a residential indicator that you calculate. So we did some calculations with different construction numbers, and you're vetting that through the EPA and IDEM as you go to show them the impact on the customer until you end up in what happened here with South Bend. I probably should let the engineers speak more to this. Is basically you came down with the amount of money that you needed to spend to get to a certain number of overflows each year. Now, the numbers we're using right now are the numbers that were used, kind of as Eric said, $2,007 that we used to come to the consent decree that we had, and we're trying to plan those dollars out.
Yeah, but basically, if the administration had brought to you a Chevy plan, then you would have just been able to do the same thing and brought that in. So your evaluation is not based on the capital project, it's based on the plan that came towards you.
I am in no way equipped to evaluate the engineering
Thank
side
you.
of the plan.
Councilmember Varner?
No, we're gonna have some more discussions on this, so I'll pass on that. But I do, if it started in 2021, in 2031, the project should be completed if in fact nothing changes. 2011, it's a 20-year project.
I'm sorry, they said 2021.
I'm sorry.
From 2011 to,
Yes, it
20.
should be complete.
We've got to fund it through 2029 is, we've got to start those construction projects, they've got to be completed by 2031.
Well, yeah, that's my point. In 20 years, it should be completed
Everything's
in
got to be completed
2031.
by 2031.
The debt service rolls off on a schedule.
It'll continue, right, absolutely.
Now, having said that,
Yep.
you have $10 million in capital plan. I mean, I need to go through, but it looks to me like we have a huge cash cow created in 2031 unless we allow our expenses to grow. So if we have this cash cow going forward, which includes payments and other taxes of $6 million a year, which includes $10 million worth of cash outlays for other construction, how can we create that with this schedule and not think we can do it for less along the way so that we are actually neutral at that point in time? And I think that's a discussion we have to have. So.
I think one of the things this schedule already anticipates as we go forward is that some of the bond issues roll off as new ones come on. When you get out to 2029 and 30, there's not a cash cow where it all stops at 20.
No, I understand that. The bonds have to pay out.
The bonds got to pay out, and they're 20-year bonds, so. Yeah.
But it doesn't go on forever.
We hope the building does not go on forever at this pace. That is
all right. We'll clarify some of that.
Councilman Dean?
Negative.
Councilman Corley?
Is that, did rates not go up for 14 years? Was that, or did they go up by inflation?
Prior to 1989, they did not.
And then 14 years after that, they did not go up, right?
No,
And then,
They started going up from 89 on.
Right, but prior to that, they did not go up?
89 to 203, they didn't go up.
Right.
Okay.
They didn't go up, so we kind of got behind the 8 ball there. And then you had these massive increases, which were necessary. We got to go through the numbers each week, so, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Davis.
No.
Councilmember Scott, we thank you for the presentation. And again, this is the second public hearing that we've had in regards to this particular bill. We do foresee that we will have other hearings as well. We'll now move to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in support of Bill 64-13.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I think this is the first one in this council.
This is the first regular common council public
We've
hearing.
had committee.
Yeah, we have committees.
But
in terms-
committees,
but in
we
terms of
had-
the public,
yes.
in the council, just
Thank you.
for the record.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in support of Bill 64-13? We ask that you come to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Pettijan. I live at 119 South 26th Street in South Bend. And I'm torn between being on one side or the other, but I want you to know that I recognize that the city of South Bend we have to address the raw sewage and non-point source pollution that's going into our river. And it's mandated, of course, by the government that we do this. But I recognize that this is going to cost us money, and we have to do this. And I would support a rate increase with the caveat that we explore natural hydrologic solutions such as permeable pavement, bioswales, and other green solutions, retaining our heritage trees that reduce the overall cost of this project. Recently at Greentown, an event that was supported by the city, there was a presenter who demonstrated that municipalities all over the country are realizing significant savings by using these so-called green solutions. By using the natural hydrology of the earth, we could save a lot of money and not even have to increase the wastewater treatment plant to the extent that we would have to anticipate. I'm very, very encouraged that our Public Works Director, Eric Horvath, is he seems like he's very, very open to looking at green solutions, and I'm so thrilled that that this is something that he has expressed to me in my conversations with him in our community of Walnut Grove. We spoke about using green solutions as a pilot project and looking at some grant opportunities to look at that. So I'm very much in support of that. Some people have said that using these kind of solutions are not usable in cold climates. Even Mayor Pete was under the impression that we couldn't use these solutions. And to anybody who would doubt that, I will tell them that they are successfully using these solutions in Iowa, in Canada. There are companies out there who have proven track records and who have implemented these successful hydrologic storm solutions while saving a lot of money for municipalities. Again, I want you to know that I recognize that raising the rates is something we're going to have to do because of the history of how we've treated water as a nuisance rather than a resource to protect. But protect the water we must, and protect the river we must. And we're legally bound to take care of the stormwater, but it's also a moral imperative that we use best practices with natural hydrologic solutions. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else present wishing to speak in support of Bill 64-13? Seeing no one, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition? We ask that you come to the podium, state your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carol Thompson. I live at 51717 Summer Court in Granger. And I will tell you my initial reaction to receiving the proposal was really a shock. I kept looking at it thinking this can't be accurate. It's just too substantial by nature. And so I started doing a little bit of research on it, and I learned a lot more tonight by being here, and I do appreciate what I've heard so far. But when you look at the fact that we've already had a 129% increase over the last 10 years, and now we're looking at another 41% increase over the next 4, that's 170% of an increase. That's difficult for anyone. My income hasn't gone up 170%. And so what does that mean in dollars for us? Well, as consumers, if you've got a 5/8-inch meter, maybe that $344 is an accurate number, but it's still going to be $437 annually and a $127 increase. If you have an inch meter, you're up almost to $1,008 a year, and that's a $293 increase per year. And this is before you have any additional usage or taxes that are calculated on that as well. So we're looking at a situation where it just becomes more and more conducive for us to find alternative ways, places to live or different resources. I am going to be one of those $150 consumers in 2017, and that's without using any additional water. That's just having water brought into my home. And I don't see how anyone can justify this as fair and reasonable. Further, there's going to be a really big impact if you have larger meters. If you look at what the 12-inch meter rates are going to increase to, it's almost $41,000 annually. For companies that are struggling right now to make ends meet, what's that going to do to our small business owners that are going to have to find ways to stick that in their budget? Unfortunately, water is not a service that we can do without. It's a basic commodity, and we can't go out into the marketplace and look for alternative solutions. We are stuck with your decisions, and we're bound to bear the consequences of the choices that you make on this decision. And unfortunately, it's going to have an impact on our most marginalized and poor socioeconomic groups. Raising rates is simply an alternative to a hidden tax. It's hidden under the name of user fee and rate increases. But let me assure you, you can dress it up and call it whatever you like, but it's a tax. And I don't mean, it's being placed on the burden of the consumers solely at this point, or at least the majority of it is.
You have 1 more minute.
Okay, implications are far-reaching. Less discretionary numbers can also have an impact on our community. I personally would approach you to look for alternative sources of funding. Look for what may be available to you. And we as a society have got to stop funding programs that where we're just looking to the easiest answer, which is raising rates. We need to look at some of the alternatives that are out there, and I hope you will continue to explore those. I urge you, please seek alternative choices, continue exploring, and do what you can to keep the rates at a minimum choice. I totally appreciate what you're trying to do. I know what we need to do. I'm not against any of that. I just want you to seek alternative options, because right now I think you're putting an extreme burden on your consumers.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present wishing to speak in opposition? Again, I see no one. The public hearing portion is now closed. Petitioner, would you like to come for rebuttal at this time? Thank you. Council members, what is your pleasure regarding this bill?
Will this be continued to 11/25/13?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries.
One question, Mr. Chair. Will this be continued back in the Utilities Committee part of it, or will it be continued back in the council portion again?
It'll, again, several questions were raised at the utility meeting, so it'll be sent back to committee also.
Committee, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I'd like to make a motion to continue 6013 to 11/25/13.
Second.
At the request of the petitioner.
Request of the petitioner?
All those in favor of the motion, I hear you vote.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Bill 60-13 will be continued until November 25th, as requested by the petitioner. I would not entertain a motion to rise from the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries.
Full council is now in session. Third reading of 4813, please.
Third reading on a bill amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 1906 Franklin Street, South Bend, Indiana 46614, Councilmanic District 6 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Move for the passage of Bill 4813.
Second.
Motion is second. Read the roll, please.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye.
Dr. Fred Furlick.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Mr. Furlick.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 5913.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 1, Basic Provisions, to add a new subsection relative to the rezoning of existing structures. Article 2, Residential Districts, to revise state swimming pool code references. Article 4, industrial districts to revise screening requirements. Article 5, plan unit development to revise an incorrect citation. Article 7, general regulations to revise certain landscaping requirements between residential and industrial uses and to revise incorrect citations.
Move for the passage of 5913.
Second.
A motion and a second. Read the roll, please.
Mr. Henry Davis Jr.,
Aye.
Dr. Fred Froelich,
Aye.
Dr. Varner,
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Furlick,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
President Dieter,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 4913.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 16, Articles 2 and 4 of the South Bend Municipal Code to prohibit plastic bags for yard waste.
A motion
Motion to
to
hear the
amend
amended.
as it was in the committee of the whole.
So move.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposition? Now, a motion on the amended version of 4913, please.
Move for the passage of the amended version of Bill 4913.
Second.
Motion and a second. Read the roll, please.
Dr. Furlick,
Aye.
Dr. Varner, Vice President Oliver Davis,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Furlick,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis Jr.,
Aye.
President Dieter,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 6313.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 17 of the South Bend Municipal Code to reinstate Article 2, Section 17-27.1, hauled septic waste.
Move for the passage of Bill 6313.
Second.
Motion to second. Read the roll, please.
Dr. Varner,
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Furlick,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis Jr.,
Aye.
Dr. Fred Furlick,
Aye.
President Dieter,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Proceed to resolution. Let's go to 1372.
A resolution confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 4004 Technology Drive, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of an 8-year real property tax abatement for the Liebermuth Company, Inc.
Thank you. Committee report, please.
The Community Investment Committee met today, and we send Bill 1372 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Presenter, please. Short synopsis of your project.
Good evening, council members. My name is Alan Brown. I am the Vice President of Liebermuth Company, and we are asking for a favorable vote on a 8-year tax abatement to renovate the 4004 Technology Drive building, where we will be spending $1,200,000, at least $1,200,000. Are there any questions?
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the petitioner? Yes, Henry Davis, Jr.
Always. How many jobs will this potentially create? I'm just going back through my.
We're going to retain 55 jobs. Some of those employees live in this community. Some of those employees are from Marshall County as well.
And I think it's great that you're reinvesting in your company. And obviously this incentive that we provide allows some of those things to happen. It's just been some time here recently that I've been really sticking to a point of community benefits. That's the reason why we're kind of talking about this long CSO project, sewer rate increases, because we have to try to start channeling some of this money back home or keeping it home as much as possible. And so again, thank you for your investment. But the thing that I want to tap at again is that was this process for you difficult in meeting tax abatement? And the reason why I'm asking this question, sir, is not to put anyone on the spot, but we continue as a city and council always get beat up to say that we're not business friendly. We do business poorly. Our tax abatement forms are too low. We're not, it's just all these negative things that are out there that, obviously take their own life after it leads one person's mouth to the next. Do we satisfy your attempts to get what you needed out of us?
I can only speak to my experience. I don't know what happened as far as this reputation of yours from the past. But but I am aware of this reputation you were referring to. And I can tell you that the process that we experienced was smooth. I thought that the questions that were asked of us were fair, and I think that from what I can sense from the council, that they've embraced our desire to come to the city of South Bend and are indeed business friendly.
Thank you, sir, so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
How many pages was your abatement policy?
I believe it was the old form. I think there were 17 pages on the old form.
I've had a lot of negative feedback on that 17 pages, that's why. I think Henry asked the question. Thank
Well,
you.
I think we're blessed. We have a large staff, and we can delegate some of that to individuals in our company. For a small business, maybe 10 persons or less, it might be considered onerous.
Well, I agree with Councilman Davis. Since I've been on the council, I've always asked people in your position when they've come to the council and gone through the process, because again, I don't know how it ever started, that it's cumbersome and you have to go to 8, 10 different places, and I have never, from people, again, who have come to this council that we've asked, is there anything that needed to be tweaked, or is it easy enough for you to get through? And again, thank you for your commitment to the area, because that's one thing that, since I've been in the council, I've asked people, and I've never heard a negative thing on that, so again, thank you.
We're excited about being on the west side of South Bend. We anticipate growth out there, and yes, sir.
Very good.
You had a question, or?
Thank you.
You're good.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have anybody like to speak in favor of this? Opposition? Seeing none, council, recommendation?
Move for the adoption of resolution 13-72.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Read the roll, please.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Mr. Furlick.
Aye.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis Jr.
Aye.
Dr. Fred Furlick.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 1373, please.
A resolution confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 4528, 4536, 4546, 4606, 4612, Lake Blackthorn Drive, 6568 Dockside Drive, 4636, 4644, 4710, 4720, 4728, 4814, 4822, Starboard Drive, 6510, 6507, Still Waters Court, 4938, 4954, 5011, 4935, 4915, Stern Line Court, 6535, 6530, 6634, Lee Way Drive, 5015, 4917, Masthead Court, 5002, 5010, 5013, 5003, 4925, Bowline Court, 4738, 4712, Portside Drive, 4627, 4611, 4604, 4614, 4624, Pier Court, 6613, Dockside Drive, 4711, 4719, 4821, 4829, Starboard Drive, 6530, Lake Crest Circle, 6735, 6747, 4736, 4739 Blackthorn Harbor Drive, an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 5-year residential real property tax abatement for Corman Real Estate Group, Inc.
Thank you.
Not bad for the Washington graduate.
Need some
Presenter,
water?
please.
Council members, my name is Steve Corman with the Corman Properties and Irish Realty, with offices at 4404 Technology Drive, South Bend, Indiana. I just wanted to address the prior petition. I've been working with the city of South Bend for the last 15, 20 years, and I've found the city to be very supportive of business, good to work with, very open, business friendly, if you will. So I look forward. I've worked with a number of municipalities, and I would say of all the municipalities I work with, the city of South Bend is by far the most receptive to work with and supportive. So I do thank you for that. As far as our petition today, I've presented all the information at the 2 prior council meetings, so I would just address the council if there's any questions, and if not, I would ask for the council's support.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, sir, are these physical addresses, have these homes already been built?
No, that's the whole reason we're asking for the tax abatement,
Okay.
because it's an incentive to get people to build and move into the city of South Bend.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone like to speak in favor or opposition? Seeing none, council.
Move for the adoption of Bill 5913.
Second.
The roll, please.
Ms. White?
Excuse me, 1373.
Second.
Yeah. Sorry, I was on the wrong thing.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Furlick?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Henry Davis Jr.?
Aye.
Dr. Fred Furlick? Dr. Varner?
Aye.
Mr. Vice President Oliver Davis?
Aye.
President Dieter?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Proceed to first reading of 6513.
First reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 4, Article 4 of the South Bend Municipal Code by the inclusion of new Section 4-21 entitled Buskers and Sidewalk Performers.
Make a motion to send this to Personnel and Finance, Health and Public Safety for 12/9/13.
So moved.
We have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. 6613, please.
First reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 2, Article 8, Section 2-121A of the South Bend Municipal Code to reinstate one non-designated holiday.
Make a motion to send this to Personnel and Finance for 11/25/13.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Unfinished business before this council.
President Davis.
Yes, sir.
So I don't step out wrong on this one. Unfinished business is for what?
Stuff that's unfinished.
Okay, well, great. Really quick, in good faith effort, and again, we're talking about Lee Remote and all these other companies that expand, we have not been able to capture any sort of like a website or page that shows that there's jobs available at certain places. We always depend upon whomever, maybe it's a newspaper or Work One, and I want to still jump on that issue, and I've been talking about this the last 2 years, but I think it's necessary that we make sure that information is communicated out. Given our unemployment rate, high unemployment rate, I think it's probably even more apparent at this point to make sure that the information is being communicated, that, you know, X amount of jobs are being opened up or available now due to the fact that a tax abatement is going through and this A company is expanding or B company is expanding. That's one. Second thing is that we need to be able to tell our own story. Again, I'm tapping at this tax abatement issue and being business friendly. There's a Chamber of Commerce talk about how we are not business friendly. It's been in the conversation for a very long time. And as a matter of fact, many of those folks that are on that particular board, and there's nothing against them, are driving that conversation. Well, the South Bend Common Council drives, you know, the economics for the city of South Bend. And I think it's imperative, and I think it would be a value to the city of South Bend that we drive that conversation better than they can, because we know what's going on. We're not unbusiness friendly. Maybe we need to change some things. But when we begin to talk about how we do business and we're not doing it this way, we're not doing it that way, now everything is so negative, well, most certainly no one will want to set up here. But that obviously is not apparent given the last 2 tax abatements that have come through here. Everybody is satisfied. So whether we change the packet from 100 pages to 2 pages or whatever it is, it still doesn't drive home the fact that we are doing the business properly and the folks that come through the doors are leaving satisfied. And I think that the story needs to be communicated. It needs to be communicated in a way that we are not viewed negatively when it comes to business-friendly environment. I think that chamber conversation needs to stop. I think it's unsupportive to the growth of South Bend. I think it's a detriment as well to the job that we are doing here.
So second.
The chamber certainly does not have any negative comments about business growth in South Bend.